You know what, bro? It's late, but it's 2026, and I'm motivated. It's going to be a great year. Let's get into it, man. We're going to listen to Jay Majors with Earn Your Leisure. Jay is literally Mount Rushmore, bro. You gotta agree. We are continuing our research on sweets. Learned a lot from, y'all go follow Sway the Pro, man. She got gems for sure.
No, so maybe that's why they call me Godfather. A lot of the young bucks, the young barbers getting in come to me for advice, and I try to be there for them. A little too accessible sometimes, but
it's gonna be a dope conversation, and it's important conversation because barbering is something that is huge and
essential
in every community. It's essential. Yeah, during COVID, they deemed as essential workers. So you have a story not just of like being a barber.
They were not in Florida. Boy, in Florida, we was cooked. They had us with theme parks and sporting events.
Barber, but
in that phase,
building a real business behind it, right? You have the largest barbering event in the world. You have a business model of suites that we're going to talk about. You're a consultant. So I guess that's why that title comes into play, not just from barbering skills, but like how you've been able to grow and scale massively from the barbering industry. Most people kind of haven't got past the barbering phase.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about it. First and foremost, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. I'm honored to be here. I've been watching you guys, especially from COVID, when we were all glued to our phones, watching your growth and what you've been, I believe that people like us are blessed by what we give, the opportunities we give, and the platform that you've given so many people is what made EYL what it is today. So I'm honored to be here, man.
Have you watched the development of my beard?
Yeah, no, you guys are always on point. I'm not gonna lie.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
So, all right, you have an interesting story how you even got into barbering.
Yeah.
You said barbering saved your life. You want to tell that story?
I mean, in and out of institutions and troubles with the law since 14. I did my real incarceration away from home, a year sentence at the age of 17. So I spent my 18th birthday incarcerated. And I came from the family, my family didn't have much, so they couldn't send me money when I was locked up. So you do the crime, you do the time. So I made pretend I was a barber because I was already doing my own edge ups and stuff because we didn't have money for haircuts like that. I didn't go all the time. And I should have went back to jail for the haircuts I was given. Bro, I was
misdemeanor.
Hairlines back. I mean,
that's dangerous. You ain't getting no trouble from
I almost had to fight a couple of times. It was never that bad, but definitely mediocre beginner haircuts. But I started getting better because you have nothing but time in there. And I had an epiphany on my last incarceration because I was a repeat offender. And I remember CEOs being the NIB, you'll be back. And I was like, why am I dedicating so much time to being in the streets when I could take this barbering thing really serious? Because I had a lot of commissary in there. I was the man.
You got good after.
I got really good.
How long it take you to get good? Torture yourself.
I personally believe I still needed more practice with scissors because we weren't allowed to use them in there. But I would say 2.5 years into my sentence, I was cutting hair from the second I woke up to the second I went to bed.
Every day.
All day. And it made my time go by faster. But it was really an eye-opener. I could really do this when I go home.
Yeah. What type of equipment they allow you using there?
I was using a beard trimmer with a MacGyvered battery pack so we could plug it into the wall because they were battery operated. And then, there's ways you break a razor open for the edge ups and, use coffee for beard dye. I mean, we done did it.
Oh, you have beard dye in there?
Coffee. For temporary, they're going to a visit. We would use instant coffee for beard dye.
So you taught yourself?
Pretty much, yeah, self-taught. There was no YouTube and stuff back then.
I think Casanat said he would never pay $100 for a haircut, but I mean, you got people that's paying $200, $300,
$1,000.
Yeah, who started that? Atlanta?
I mean, I really look at it like this, man. How much is an hour worth of your time? How much is an hour worth of your time? Are you paying for the haircut? Are you paying for the professionalism, the time management that person has? I know when I call my barber, he's going to be on time to cut my hair. I'm a very busy man. I rather pay extra to get in and out of his chair than to be sitting in the barbershop BSing with a bunch of people or, 40 minutes late for an appointment with possibly some dirty clippers. I feel there's different calibers, right? Some people shop at Louis and Saks and some people are cool with Target. So I really depend. Now, I also, on the flip side, there's a lot of barbers that charge $100 for haircuts that don't have the credentials, that don't have the professionalism and the punctuality. If that's what they think they're worth, they might be doing less haircuts and getting paid that, but I don't think they're fully booked.
Talk about, I mean, you just brought up a pain point, I felt like, for the barbershop industry. We grew up in an era where it was Saturday, you're going to get a cut, you go in there, it's 9 o'clock, you might be in there till 4 before you get your cut.
Easy.
Technology
All
has
day. All day.
technology has definitely changed that. Has that, obviously, I mean, to me, that would help increase profit margins, right? Now you can have it scheduled and put more people on that regimented schedule than how they used to be. Talk about the role that technology has played in the space.
I mean, yeah, and especially, big shout outs to Squire for only focusing on the barber, aspect. Like they could do salons and many nail salons, but they mainly focus on barbering. I feel like everyone's in a rush nowadays, especially after COVID. Like, everything's at the palm of our hands, instant gratification's at the palm of our hands. I miss the days when my fun clients would be in the barbershop for 3-4 hours. You always know you got the barbershop clown, you got the dude that's coming in with the bootleg CDs. Like, I miss those days. Unfortunately, they have changed. And a lot of people are sensitive. Like in the barbershop, you had to have thick skin. I remember wanting to go home crying because me and one of my barbers would be ranking on each other so bad, or you did a bad haircut.
Jay.
But I feel like society, unfortunately, is getting a little soft. People can't take certain, oh, you're bullying him. No, we're just
Literally, I never in my life had to deal with a situation where a grown man felt like he was getting bullied. And it wasn't even, it's locker room stuff. But that happens. Sometimes people's personalities don't mix well. But in this instance, they couldn't even figure it out as men. They couldn't talk about it. It was crazy.
We do. So I feel like, unfortunately, the environment changes. That's kind of why, and I know we'll speak about this a little bit later, I shifted to the suites, because I feel like with that intimate relationship that we have with our clients, getting them in and out, that they just really want to be focused on themselves if they're paying top dollar for haircuts.
Well, yeah, talk about that as far as the suites, because you at one point you transitioned from a regular traditional barbershop model to the suites. So explain your model with the suites and what made you transition into that.
So I'm controversial. Like some people don't agree with me. I don't believe you own the barbershop unless you own the building. You own the name, you own the sign.
I definitely disagree with Jay with that. Like I don't want to own a barbershop, but the only reason why you're coming to me is because you're going to that plaza is because of the shop. Jay can do that because of at least I think, because I've visited his shops before. He's definitely in a much more concentrated, condensed area. It's difficult, I think, in Tampa to open a barbershop in a plaza where there's no anchors. Like, where's the value there? I'm looking for the cash flow, bro. I'm still going to buy. I still got real estate. I still got commercial real estate. I still have rental properties. But those are tenants it's diversified from other industries. So I still think we agree with each other. And if it made sense where I live to buy the building and put a shop, I would love that. And I'm thinking that now that I'm in downtown, I can do that. But I was in the suburbs. I wanted to be next to Target, next to LA Fitness, and I was willing to pay top dollar on rent for it and spend cash. These build outs weren't cheap. These are, like he was saying, manila envelopes. They were shells, manila shells. Real capital is required if your landlord isn't going to give you TA, tenant allowance. So I get what he's saying, and I'd love to own the building that I'm in, but I also like the idea of my tenant not being dependent on the barber industry. I want a little diversity from the barber industry. I love the industry. I don't think it's going anywhere, but when the pandemic happened, it was nice not being dependent on my barbershops. I'm just saying.
You might own the chairs, but if you have a landlord, and a lot of these landlords pocket watch, and unfortunately, a lot of barbers don't have a real big education. They don't even get an attorney to look at their lease. They're so excited to open their business that they'll sign like a 3-year lease. And what happens is it takes about 18 months to really grow your brand and get your money back from your business, even just to break even, right? And
that's why I tell my guys, man, do not sign any lease unless you have an option. If you don't have an option, and I know that doesn't guarantee anything, but if you don't have an option, it's got to be long term. If you're scared, do 5 and 5. But I like 10-year leases, bro. I like 10-year leases. And when you do a 10-year lease in a huge plaza where there's Targets and LA Fitnesses, their business is not running businesses. They don't want to run your business, bro. They want to keep you in there as long as possible. The value of that $150 million building is there because they have long-term tenants, not because they own the businesses in the building. At least that's, you know, that's my understanding from speaking, because, you know, man, God, it's crazy how the world works, bro. One of our landlords is a property developer, and we're in 3 of her plazas, and she's building these massive, beautiful plazas. Okay, she was willing to sit down for lunch with us. We bought her lunch, and she broke down her whole business. And this is why I'm telling you guys what I'm telling you, because this is a woman who's building malls, bro, like crazy shit, right? She don't want to own the business, bro. She had a fast food chain and a coffee shop chain that had 16 locations and another one that's like 200 locations. They were trying to sell their locations in that plaza. She didn't want them shit. She was trying to get us to buy one, you know, like, but I do know that these landlords who own these smaller plazas, who have 5 tenants, 10 tenants in buildings in okay areas, older plazas, they'll take your business 100%. If it's a great business, they'll take it.
I've seen landlords pocket watch people and be like, oh man, this car is going in and out this lot. This barbershop's busy. So we're going to go from $3,000 a month to $4,500 a month. Now this barber just started making money, and now they have to go up on their haircuts. They have to hire more people,
Yeah,
or
the
they
big
might have to
plazas
move
ain't
out
doing
and
that.
find a cheaper location once their lease is up. So
At least in the 15 years that I've been doing this, bro, that I've owned a barbershop, I've never had a landlord do that to me in these big plazas, because it's a corporation, bro. It's one of those things where, especially if they have a good tenant, they don't want to play that game. And if you have a long-term lease, the odds are, you know, our economy goes up 80% of the time. You have some corrections, you have some bad times, but these people are getting the leases that they want typically. And if they can't and they have to bump your rent, it's going to happen. It's going to absolutely happen. Like after the pandemic happened, 20% it went up. A lot of our units, it didn't, but some did. Thank God we've been raising our rents too. Like inflation is a thing, but our barbers have been raising their prices, and we've helped our barbers raise their prices. And our average barber makes 6 figures at our shops. So we help our team get to that point. You know, we keep marketing the shops. They stay busy. If they stay busy, they can keep raising their prices. And as long as it's healthy, we can keep raising our rents. So it's worked out the last 15 years, thank God. But I you know, now I'm understanding his angle a bit more, that I'm breaking this down. I'm sorry that I keep pausing the video, but I'm breaking this down and I understand his perspective, and he's got a point. You know, maybe after the 16th location, maybe, you know, I'll slow down a little bit. Let the guys keep opening their locations. If Nate wants to open more, if Dre wants to open, you know what I mean? Like Fabian wants to open more, Jordan wants to open more, Perez, whatever. They want to do more, they can do more. But maybe at 16, I slow down and I start looking at maybe buying some of the locations just to diversify a bit. Or I start looking at these leases and I start protecting myself a bit more aggressively.
So what I did was I came up with this location, and it's like
gotta
micro
see
real
it.
estate.
It's beautiful.
If you're getting $325 a week, you're getting about $1,300 a month for a 10 by 10 room. You put 20 10 by 10 rooms in a 4,000 square foot space, you do the math. And then you could do like a 2-man suite where 2 barbers that are friends, let's say you guys want to go on an endeavor together. You get a little break on the rent, but you guys could work together because you've been so used to working together. And I'm on my 2nd location now, and it's been an amazing journey for that.
That's an interesting model. We heard about that in the salon space where they get suites. It's like they're going to do hair here, there's nails there, there's an esthetician there, and it makes a lot of sense. You said something important. You said it takes about 18 months to build your brand. In this space, I mean, because it can be tough. How do you market yourself? Because I feel like you coming from an era where it was hearsay. It was like, yo, he's nice with the lineups. You can tape it. You're fade crazy. You should go check him out. Yeah. Now it's like once you get your barber, it's going to be tough to move from that barber, right? So how do you market your brand in this era?
Well, due to me doing the Connecticut Barber Expo, being an educator, being a consultant, having a decent following on Instagram, people tend to gravitate towards you that want to do what you're doing. And to me, that's always like keeping my word has always been a big thing for me. Like my word is my bond, and I stand by that. And I believe that when you do that in business, people have no choice but to respect it. We're always gonna have our haters, right? Like, unfortunately, people we grew up with can't handle our success. I'm sure you guys might be going through it. That's a whole another podcast, right? But I feel as if, you know, the way I've always held it down is like I've been giving so many people the opportunity. I can't even tell you, this coming up on my 20-year anniversary in January, and we're going to do a reunion of everyone that's opened their own barbershop, because I have thousands of men and women that are able to open their own brand just because they worked underneath my umbrella at one point. To me, that's extremely gratifying. And I think that's where the blessings come.
So let's go back to the salon suite to really break it down. So you bought the building, you have 8 apartments.
There's 8 apartments upstairs, correct.
Okay.
3 barbers currently live upstairs, so they just come right downstairs to work.
Okay. So it's an 8 apartment real estate play that you're renting out apartments.
Let me look at Jay's watch real quick. Yeah, I see that watch, bro.
Okay. So it's an 8 apartment real estate play that you're renting out apartments.
Boy, Jay
On the bottom level, there's how many chairs?
24.
24 chairs, but they're cornered off to each, like, it's like you have your own space.
Yeah, maybe if when we edit this, I can give you some B-roll for it. But so basically, both of my locations have a 4-chair barbershop in the front, because I don't want to really lose the barbershop culture. I'm trying to hold on to it the most I can, right? So I have a 4-chair barbershop. I own a barber school. Once a student graduates,
the school is in the building too?
No, it's another location. All right. So once they graduate and I feel that they're good enough to work for me, I will put them in a 4-chair barbershop.
That's so dope.
At a cheaper rate than a suite. Once they build up enough clientele and they're like, Jay, I'm ready, someone just moved out into a suite and opened their own business, because that's usually what happens. They start off in a shop, go to a suite, and then open their own barbershop. Move that student into a suite, and I'll just keep recycling.
We all have the same problems. Jay and I have the same problems that we have to create solutions for. We just use different solutions. You see what I'm saying? And I'm still here. Jay's still here. Still both making money. We just use different solutions, because I'm all the way in Florida. He all the way up north. You know what I'm saying? Like, different sides of the damn country. But entrepreneurship's entrepreneurship, man. That's
Cycling it. So it's like a 360 rotation deal that I have.
rotation
Train them,
deal. 360
job
rotation.
place them,
Don't use 360 deals. People don't like that. It has a bad connotation.
put them in a suite, and then send them on to open their own business. And we provide accountants and everything for them to do that.
And
You have an ecosystem. You provide them with accountants when you know I got pie accounting. No, I'm just playing.
I feel like the younger generation of barbers don't believe in the power of shaking hands and networking. They're like, oh, can you streaming it, or can I see it on YouTube?
Yeah.
So
Jay's so smart.
I don't know how much longer of a run. I don't want to put that out there. Like, you know, I hope and pray that I can keep going, because I know it's helping so many people. But if that doesn't go, I'm going to find another way. And I think that's the key to being a true entrepreneur. Like, you're always going to find a way to earn.
Yeah, it's crazy. As you said that, it made me think this new generation,
Man,
it ties into.
I think I'm going to end the podcast there. I'll let you guys watch the rest of it, man. So much wisdom there, bro. I don't even know if the hosts know the wisdom. Like, coming from a barber who's been doing this for a while, he's just very, very well spoken, and he's not dumb, bro. Man is not. He's not selling a lie. He is who he is, and I tip my hat to him, because he's like, bro, I don't think he's known for the expo, bro. That expo makes a lot of money, and he's like, bro, I don't think it's gonna be around that long. I gotta make sure remember how I was saying with the last video I was reacting to, you know, you gotta wait. Entrepreneurs, they disrupt themselves before they're disrupted. And he's been looking like, yo, how can I get disrupted? It's looking ugly over here. Let me make sure, you know, nothing's gonna happen. Like, entrepreneurs find a way. So, what a great interview. Definitely learned about his business. I understand it. I feel like I took some notes. I'm gonna let it marinate a little bit, and then I'm gonna do I'm gonna show you guys my perspective, my video. It's nice to have different business models, and they all work. So, God bless y'all. Happy New Year.